think I got close, but it's off. The amp that they used, funnily enough, obviously they cut the speaker, which is the famous thing. You might not know it, but they actually, to get that distortion, they cut the speaker, and it was more of a fluke because he was drunk or stoned when he did it. And it was a case of, it's one of the earliest, I don't think it is actually officially the first, but it's one of the earliest occasions of distortion that was captured, but intentionally captured. You know, there's been distortion in the past, but they haven't gone out their way to get it. It's just been, they've had to turn up to keep up with the big band and all that type of thing. So, and it's glorious. But mine sounded different. It's obviously a different speaker, a different power amp. And funny enough, the amp that he called his amp, the fart box. And I call my amp that I used the shit brick. So there's a kind of affinity there. So I think I really enjoyed the sound of mine. I actually like the sound of mine too. So it worked out really well. I thought I'd be throwing the speaker away. I was worried. I like that speaker. That's the speaker I used on the Beatles video. You know, the old CTS vintage Elipco speaker. Nice speaker. But I figured, I'm a very calculating person. And I figured if I could get that to work, then for future work, I could work for somebody and say, hey, I've got the Kinks sound or something similar and something as vibey, and I can recreate it on a whim. So I could reamp, you know, if you want that solo to sound really ratty and, you know, vintage, then I'm your guy. So that's the way I look at it. And it worked for me. I love the sound of it. I was actually playing with it earlier. This is not me BSing. On my family's life, I was vibing on that speaker and I'm loving it. I was holding notes and there was this interesting, weird, throaty, dying tube sound that I absolutely adored. So that was great. So it was a lot of fun doing it, and it's the, I'll take you through the process of me cutting the speaker. And that'll be either before this or after that, but some more information about the actual process and everything. So what they did, they obviously didn't just rip the speaker and go for it. He surrounded this little amp with mics. Okay, so this is before we start cutting. We have the vintage voiced dynamic mic, the Heil PR30, which is kind of like a slightly more dynamic sounding SM57, where you just get a little bit more of the air than the 57, which is very basic mids. And also I have the large diaphragm, another vintage style microphone, but you know, this one is phantom power and everything. So it's two different styles. So you have the condenser and the dynamic. So, and this is it without any interference. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have a loop pedal playing the same riff, and just keep that going, and I'm going to keep on making rips. I'm going to be wearing headphones and listening to the sound to hear when it starts sounding more like the original recording. Wish me luck. So, and the other side was actually smashed with the limiter. So that's what I tried to do as well, to try and get that, you know, sucked in type of claustrophobic sound, but it's still, then you can hear every nuance of it through that that limiter. So, and the bass was very interesting too, because he actually used an I believe it was a Vox, like AC or AT100. Here's a fun fact that I forgot to mention about the bass. This is what I used for the bass guitar. This is a Blackstar amp. It's their flagship, the best amp that they put out. It's all point-to-point hand-wired, and because it's me, it's been modded to bejesus. And when he played the bass, he was playing through something that was as loud as this. It was the loudest amp at the time that you could get from a Vox, and it was an AC100 or something like that. BT1, I can't remember the specific name, but he used a hollow body bass with it that had great vibe. But when you're playing that loud in a band, all live in the room, he couldn't suppress the feedback. So there was this weird low level feedback that you can hear. And I actually put that in the track. I mimicked feedback, low level bass feedback, and I sneaked it in the first couple of bars. So when you initially hear da 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 da, when the band kicks in, da 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 da, da 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 da. So, and like I say, man, rock and roll, they rough and ready. They didn't retake. They didn't even try and cut it out on the fader, you know, because there was so much going on one fader back then, and it was a mono recording. So sometimes it's just rock and roll, man. You just got to hit record and get that vibe, warts and all. So that's the loudest amp that they do. And when you listen to it, again with these, like Whitesnake, the bass is bombastic. It's the bass that's propping up most of these guitars. Most of these famous guitar tones that people still do interviews over today, largely in part down to the bass. Because when the bass kicks in, the whole song starts shaking. So it's really a group effort. The song, the riff, the technology, the innovation, the genius. It was all there. And actually, the funny thing is, the producer at the time was kind of a kid. He was as young as the band, and they were weighing it. This is a good rule, man. When it comes to rock and roll, you don't have to overthink it. This whole track was it was a compromise from day one. Not many people were really feeling the Kinks at that time, and so they got this young engineer. I think he farted in a corner while Pet Sounds was being recorded. So then, with the Beach Boys, if you've worked with the Beach Boys if you were their paper boy, you'll get a job in London in the studio if the word Pet Shop Boys, if Pet Sounds is mentioned with the Beach Boys. And I'm not saying that's what got him in the door, but so he got in there. He had a big meeting with all the big wigs saying, how are we going to deal with the Kinks? And they said, we're not going to spend money. We're not going to send you to the new stereo studio that they have. If you're going to take this band, it's on your back, it's on your dime. And because it was on the producer's dime, he went and did it in mono. So it's one of those things where the amp was 10 watts, a crap practice amp, which was broken. The band were at each other's throats. The producer was a child, broke, putting his own money into it in the cheap studio, and it comes up with the most anthemic rock. It's practically the birth of rock and heavy guitars. So you don't have to overthink it. If you've got that riff, you put some effort into it, because I played that riff, simple old riff, and I was getting it wrong so many times. I was like, why does mine sound completely different? He's going really slamming it. The solo, he's lifting, you can see him play it on like TV and everything. He's lifting the whole guitar up when he's playing it. Listen to the ferocity of the solo. He is just banging the shit out of the guitar. The whole thing. The funny thing is, like, talking about compromise, the drummer forgot the intro. They had this big convoluted drum pattern to start the whole song off with, and you can kind of hear it. It kind of drags to start, and the bass drum is on the wrong side, and then he starts kicking in. And because he knew that he messed it up, he thought, I'm going to hit the crap out of this to give it some attitude, and he did, and again, it's that part of the pie that made the whole song. That the whole thing was practically a mistake, with a fantastic band and a wonderful explosion of all their frustrations as well. And the funny thing is that, the Davies brothers, they were famous for arguing and just being completely different people, it's just fire and ice type of dichotomy. And they both knew, leaving the studio that day, they both knew that they'd done something special. So that's a nice thing that I learned in their interview about the process. So it's I'll put some more information in the description about the the actual specifics of what was used, the actual amp, and they actually used the telly on the rhythm. Everybody thinks it's one of these hollow bodies that I had initially. That was the solo, and it was definitely a telly. I tried doing the rhythm with all of my hollow bodies, and it was nothing like it. As soon as I hit the telly, it was like, and you see the Kinks all the time with tellys back in the day. Like, that was their number one guitar, and it was a fun process. It was a risky process, and I know I'm going to get hate in the comments for ruining a speaker, but I think the proof is in. I didn't ruin that at all. I augmented it. I modded it. That speaker is now legendary, and it's going to be in my possession. And I also had some fun getting a temporary cabinet for it. Check this out. Check out. This is what you do to tone chase in my life. This is what happens. It smells so bad. Don't breathe. Don't breathe. Something's in the air tonight. Oh my God, Sandra. No good, no bueno. Look up the state of my garage. Oh my God. This is not good. This is where the cancer comes from. Why do I do this? Alright, I'm gonna put this in the trash can. It says good TV. So, how messed up was that? I was breathing that in, and it's just so gross. I don't know what sort of dodgy fibers ended up in my lungs and my nasal cavities after that, but it was not good. I did actually feel sick later on, but I think it was more of making myself sick because of the smell. Oh God, that thing. So yeah, and the kicker is, it didn't even fit the damn speaker. I thought it was a 12-inch because the 10-inch speaker in there that was completely rigged and looked like a joke was screwed in with washers holding it in because it barely fit. So then I thought, obviously it's a 12-inch, but it worked. I wanted to get a small cabinet because that little combo that they used was tiny, so I wanted to get something the same size, and that speaker was the same dimension, so that, that type of deal. I wanted to get my ducks in a row. Well, one thing I'm worried about is, because you can see in the video that I had it laying on its back, I'm wondering if it's going to sound different on its side. And I presume just from physics it's going to fart out a little bit more, so maybe that'll be extra distortion for me. You never know. So that's something that I'm going to look into in the future.
Oh, God.
Oh, hi, speaker.
Hey.
How's it going?
Hey, Owen.
I didn't know you were awake.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Last time was...
That was the Beatles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we used that beautiful Fender.
Yeah, what's...
The Bandmaster.
Is that the shipwreck?
Oh, come on, speaker. The shipwreck is... He's...
A crate?
Just a little lamp that could. He's not all bad.
It's a crate.
The first cut will do.
They can't hear you, you idiot. Oh. No! Stop! Why? Oh, you do anything for views. Oh. I'll do anything. Oh, please, I was only joking. I don't mind, you can use the shipwreck. Just don't. No more. It's not fair. Is this a bad dream? It's a bad dream. I'm in the garage. This is not happening. Just gonna get the Fender and we have a nice time and play the oldies. Do you know how much worth I am? Do you know how much I cost on eBay? Are you doing this? What if you get it wrong, man? What if you get it wrong? I'm gonna blow myself. I'm gonna blow myself. I'm gonna be shorted out, and then you're not gonna have the proper image, and your favorite amp is gonna die. And it's not the shipwreck that's gonna die, because I'm gonna wait until it's your own first design Marshall, so that it breaks when you're filming it, when you're trying to sell it. Shh. Is this all you got? Ain't nothing, bitch. Just a flesh wound. Everyone's really annoyed with this sound now. It's hardly distorting.
Okay, so.
Oh, so
it
what?
Got slightly more distorted.
Slightly more distorted. Well, it's just like I am, innit?
Part of the legend was he actually used knitting needles.
What?
To get the distortion. So, poke holes in it with knit needles. No. That's what's coming up next.
Why? No.
Play music. It is more distorted. I think this goes to show of how good speakers were made back in the day. I mean, damn. This thing is taking some punishment. I guess I'm going to have to do more holes towards the center. Let's try that. Alright, so that's not doing it either. It is distorted more, but not quite as funky as it was. So I'm going to try larger slices. Let me just grab my hood. I'm going to do more around the surround. Here we go. Let's turn it up. We got it. We got it.
Yeah, yay.
Now, see, we did this together as a family. Now you're one of the best, most sounding
You
guitar
can't even
sounds that are
talk.
in the universe today.
Yeah, well,
So,
you have to sleep. Sweet dreams, little one.
what is this? I made this. This is the first proper guitar I tried to put together, and it's a pine caster. I tried to recreate one of the really first ever Fender Tele ever made was made of pine on the body, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I love it. I got brass here, string rollers. This is Canadian maple, and it's got real Fender tuners and vintage Fender, real Fender electronics and pickups and all that good stuff. So I love it. Sounds great, right? And what about the Kinks? What a band. I actually had quite... When I was young, I was actually into all that stuff. I was into the Kinks. I was into the mod era stuff, like the Faces and the Who and the Lambrettas and all stuff like that. So it's going back and visiting that was a joy. And when you think about Ray Davies, I mean, the difference of, like, You Really Got Me and, you know, Waterloo Sunset, and just the songs are so varied, like a dedicated follower of fashion. They're so off the wall and weird, and, you know, and what the producers wanted to do, he wanted to get away from that polite British sound. So that's part of the reason why You Really Got Me is so raucous. He wanted to purposely get away with it. That's why he was redlining a lot of the inputs, and, you know, I'm not sure if he had a hand in the speaker aspect, because then again, you know, maybe that's me reaching a little bit, but he did seem to be on a mission to bring, you know, to try and make it less stiff, you know, the old BBC broadcasting aspect of it. So I think it obviously worked in that respect. So I'm learning a lot of these producers, they're usually right place, right time, and they go for it. Like they go to where the music is. They go to swinging London, you know. I mean, the guy who ended up recording Imagine just happened to be in the studio, and the main guy recording it bailed. And all of a sudden, this kid is working with, you know, U2 and the ex-Beatles and all sorts of stuff. So don't think because you didn't go to college and you didn't go through the usual steps that you won't make it. Just get yourself in there, you know. Personally, I'm putting my presence online. That's how I'm going to hope to be discovered one day by someone who might see, you know, my Beatles video and say, hey, I need vintage style music recreated, and then, you know, maybe I'll start working with good people too. So that's part of my master plan. So, and speaking again of the Davies, it's bittersweet now. It's kind of like I kind of didn't like hearing this information, because Ray Davies's guitar, he started to get obsessed with music, and his sister was a big part of that, where he'd listen to her records, and she knew that he was passionate about it, and she was a couple of years older than him, and he would just say in passing, you know, I really want this guitar. And one day she said, you know, go into your bedroom, there's something there for you. and he went, and it was that guitar, and the guitar that he practically learned how to play on. That same night, she went to a dance, and she died of a heart attack. She was like barely a teenager, I think. So imagine that, where every day he's picking up the guitar. How can it not remind him of his sister, you know? And it's stuff like that that perhaps you understand where his head is sometimes, you know, when he was the quiet one. So, and his brother went off the rails a little bit, which is great, because that's what you need. You know, you need a bit of the, you know, just the. I think if the Beatles all got along so well, we wouldn't have as much good songs, because, you know, there's competition in that. So I don't want to take it down. I'm getting, you know, depressed on the subject. It's all about rock and roll. But, you know, behind rock and roll, there's the blues, and there's feeling, and it's real passion. It's not just noise. It's not just the kids trying to rebel. You know, there's real heart behind all this music. So I hope you like that. And if you do, please subscribe. I've got my own distortion pedal coming out now, and it can do certain distorted style stuff. Maybe not as crazy as that, but it'll get you, you know, into tube screamer land and distortion land and modern metal, vintage metal, speed metal, hair metal. It'll do it. It'll do all of it. So if that's a $99 pedal right now, and eventually it'll be $125. So if you want something that I've designed, if you want to support me and my channel, that's a good way to start. And don't even like play the pedal, just buy it for me, you know, and that's it. So have a good one. I've been Owen, Circle of Tone. Peace out. Have a good one. Yeah.